Welcome to another edition of the Digital DJ Tips podcast. This is a Your Questions edition with me, Phil Morse, where we take questions from our students here at the Digital DJ Tips School about all areas of digital DJing, whether that's gear, music, mixing, performing, or taking this hobby further. As ever, we've got a really full mailbag of questions, and it was a very busy show this week because it's the first show after our summer break. So really it's the first show of a new year with lots of new students and returning students with a whole wide range of things they needed help with. So if you're a DJ that is looking for inspiration or answers to questions you didn't know you had, listen on. I hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, this is 100% student funded. So consider coming and having a look at our school at digitaldjtips.com and jumping on board. Right, without any further ado then, let's get started. Our first question today comes from Craig, and this is the biggest question and probably the deepest one we're going to tackle, not only in this show or this term, but probably all year. And it frames the way we work as a school, which is why I've chosen this to start off a new academic year, if you like, of our podcasts. And Craig says this, and I'm going to read out more or less word for word what Craig has said. Craig says, anyone else continually seeing DJ content online that makes you want to keep your headphones in the box? All these youngsters doing dance moves behind their DJ gear with a couple of fader chops, button presses, and then more dancing. Why don't they just join a dance school? I see no point. It's a bit like those £50 mobile DJ bookings, people with poor turnouts, empty dance floors. You're demanding, here's my playlist, don't deviate from it, Karens. People constantly buying the next new gear, and then all you get is the fellow DJs' negative comments about that gear and their setups and their mixes and so on and so on. Deep breath. Craig says, it was only a few years ago that I was engrossed in DJing and I was ready for a big push to get back into it. I was enjoying being part of the communities, the content of different groups and organisations, getting involved with courses, seeking out music, but now it's just slowly fading away. I'm sorry to bring a negative slant to this, but I think it's fair to share. I'm not at the point of selling my gear yet, and I've invested lots of pounds in music and courses, but I honestly don't know what I can do. I dip into things every now and then thinking there's hope, but it's not long before I'm back to the negative outlook. My original aim was to go back to mobile DJing, but if I go back doing that, then it would be more about just doing the odd booking here and there. I don't really think I'm cut out for making it a proper business given the climate we live in. I hear previous long-time mobile DJs saying they're glad they packed it in, as they wouldn't enjoy being a mobile DJ nowadays. The question is, do I have the time and energy in me to commit to doing the odd pick and choose booking here and there just for old time's sake? Wow. Craig, we feel your pain. We do feel your pain. There was a news piece that someone cut out and shared with us. And this news piece was from one of the tabloid papers in the UK. And it was basically some wife of a 53-year-old DJ that had written into the paper. And I'm just trying to dial it up now in the background. And this was it. I'll read it to you. So it was a short news piece and it said, "Madness of DJ fantasy. My husband is threatening to give up his job and become a full-time DJ. The man is 53. He argues that Fatboy Slim and David Guetta are also older, but he doesn't get it that they've been spinning discs forever. He's only just taken up collecting vinyl. Our daughters think he's having a midlife crisis. I'm terrified that we're going to lose everything." Right, I'm chuckling, but there's kernels of truth in all of this. Right, Craig and everyone else, it's time to lay down DJing 2025 style, especially for people who remember DJing 1995 style. The DJ world is bigger and more popular than ever. Digital DJing caused that because now anyone and everyone who wants to can dabble in DJing, and people are using their phones to do it and sometimes nothing else. And then everything between there and the full professional setups, which are bread and butter for DJs who think nothing of walking up to £15,000 worth of equipment and DJing. And everything in between, as I say. The audiences now are also everything in between. From 12-year-old, my daughter learnt to DJ at 10 and played in front of her school for 3 hours. Craig, I'm going to hazard a guess you would not have enjoyed that gig. From that age, all the way up. And by all the way up, I really mean all the way up. There are people happily DJing to what our fantastic and beloved tutor, DJ Jazzy Jeff, calls grown folk. In fact, DJ Jazzy Jeff thinks that grown folk are pushing a renaissance in DJing the way you, Craig, are hankering after. But we can't turn the clock back. We can't uninvent mobile phones or social media. We have to meet the current world halfway at some point. So here's what I would say to you, Craig. I'm going to give you my experience living as I do in a place where I live on a marina, right? I live in a penthouse apartment that overlooks a marina. And I've got in this marina, in this kind of like, it's one of the modern places where they've built up the waterfront here in Gibraltar, where we're based. And they have restaurants and bars and nightclubs and outdoor spaces and, you know, floating pontoons where they have one-off pop-up parties. They have the lot. And actually, yesterday here where I live was the National Day, the Gibraltar National Day. It's the biggest party all year long. And it's on a Wednesday. It was yesterday anyway, because it's always on the same day, the 10th of September. So yesterday, from my vantage point, I could see everywhere from the main square where they had a covers band playing Bob Marley classics, all the way round from the very corners of this pleasure marina where the smaller venues are, right through to the centre where the big restaurants and so on are, right through to the Irish pubs and the outdoor place and where the nightclub is, and down to the fun bars, and also to a cafe that sits there in the middle of the pedestrianised bit. Between all those venues, they were playing everything. They had some guy on a microphone screaming at people. It sounded like a dance class. It sounded like a nursery school's dance class, screaming at people to dance along to Black Eyed Peas and so on. They had Latin music playing in one of the Spanish vibey type bars. They had pure pop music playing in a couple of the places. The pop-up cafe I was talking to you about had a DJ with their own PA system that sounded really nice, and quite a young crowd spilled out onto the pavements, but not that young, playing what I would call traditional house, just really nicely mixed with really good subwoofers, house music. From modern stuff all the way back to kind of David Morales mixes from the 90s and so on. And I'm only just scratching the surface of what I could hear standing there. And I love it, right? I stand there on the balcony. I mean, it gets a bit much when you're trying to sleep late at night. But standing there on the balcony, looking at the venues, looking at the different types of crowds and looking at the different people. The point I'm making, Craig, is that DJing is a broad church and there is a crowd for everyone. But you are not going to please everyone, and you don't really want to be trying to do that. There is no way my now 13-year-old daughter could have played at most of those venues with what I taught her and kept them happy, but she could keep her schoolmates happy. What was the difference? She was their age and they were her crowd. The point is, Craig, you have to find your crowd. What is it you're into? What is it you like? I can guarantee there will be other people who like that. The other thing I want to say to you, if you're disillusioned about the way DJing is going, and again, there's that thing, DJing, it's not one thing now, is that it's not all or nothing. Now we're back to what I was saying when I read out that news piece from the tabloid newspaper. You don't have to throw yourself all in and say, I'm now going to do this full time as a profession as of now, age 53 or whatever. It doesn't have to be like that. You can pick and choose. You can dip in. You can do just what you want. And you don't have to do it for money. In fact, you shouldn't. You should be doing it because you love it. You want to do it. And if you don't love it or want to do it, then frankly, no amount of money is going to keep you doing it because it's a hard game. DJing is a hard game, as we all know. Everyone just sees the glamorous side of it, but they don't see the rest of it. They don't see the loneliness of picking tunes and so on. We're going to get onto a question about that in a little while. They don't see the lumping equipment around or the worry when you're not filling the dance floor. Or, as you say, the people constantly requesting stuff you haven't got or don't want to play. So you have to find your crowd. It's fine to dip in, but also what I want to offer you is this. It's fine to do it just for yourself. We have so many students here in the school who are just happy to make mixes for themselves, for their family, for their friends, to share online, to people who get it. And that's fine as well. As long as you want to share the music you love with other people, there will always be room for you, whether that's 10 other people, 100, 1,000 or whatever. But you ain't going to please everyone all the time. So anyway, I hope I'm making sense there, Craig. And this the reason we've started our whole new academic year from our first live show in September, on our first podcast in September here at the school with this, is that it does underline something that we hear, because times have changed out there. Things are different, and the big wheel, as Massive Attack said, does keep on turning. You can't change that. Lou says in our live comments, we've got live students here with us, Lou says, don't try to please everyone. It will never happen. And Dirk says, I read that article in the paper as well. She's full of it. Let the man DJ. I love it. Thank you for that, Dirk. So there we go. We went philosophical and deep right at the very beginning. And after that, I think we're going to find the rest of this plain sailing. Thank you to the community for chipping in if you're one of the people with us here live. If you'd like to join us live and have your question on this podcast, then head to digitaldjtips.com and check out our courses and programs. All members of our courses and programs get to ask questions and to be here when we record these. And if you are listening to this on our audio podcast or on YouTube, do subscribe. The next question I have is from Andreas, and I love this. It's geeky, and we like geeky here. It's also important. Who says, I've got a question about the topic of audio cables and plugs and connecting DJ equipment properly. As a mobile DJ, you often need to connect to PA systems in a location, and that can be tricky because there's all things to take into account, like balanced and unbalanced wiring and RCA and TS and TRS and XLR. And in my experience, in many locations, as a DJ, you're expected to know all this. There's often no or limited knowledge on site. So is a bit of audio engineering knowledge important for DJs? What's your advice on this one? It really, really is, Andreas. You see, the thing is, you might get a booking in a local pub or bar, and you might negotiate that booking with the owner of the venue. But I can almost guarantee you that when the owner of the venue says, okay, come on Friday, set up at 6:30 to start at 7, that if that owner is running a venue professionally, he or she will not need to be there at 6:30 or 7 when there's no one there. He or she will probably roll up at 9:30, 10, letting their assistant manager look after everything until that point. But often the assistant manager knows nothing about the DJ gear. And so you're expected to be able to turn it all on and plug everything in. So it is important to understand the basics. So luckily, over on the Digital DJ Tips website, if you search audio cables in the search bar, you will find lots of free resources to help you understand all the things you asked for. But also in our book, Rock the Dance Floor, which is available on Amazon, Kindle, audiobook, and everywhere you get your books from. The first section of our 5 sections on how to DJ is called Gear. And it's all about the gear, the geeky stuff, as you say, Andreas. Because without the gear, you've got nothing to play the music on. Music is our second section. Without the gear and the music, you've got nothing to do mixing on, which is the third section. And without the gear, the music and the mixing, you can't perform, which is the fourth section. And without performing, you're never going to get the bug and want more of it. And success, our 5th section, is all about getting more of it and going off in the directions you want to go in. If you want a free copy of our book, by the way, you don't need to go buy it from Amazon or whatever. You can get it just by becoming a free member of Digital DJ Tips. Go to digitaldjtips.com and grab it there. It's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews everywhere that it is officially out there. It's a Bible of digital DJing, and I'd love you to have a copy for free. Become our latest free member and we'll give you one. Right, thank you for that, Andreas. So this next question is from John, and it's another technical question. I like it. John says, if I'm using my iPhone to sprinkle in requests for an event, would you recommend using a wired approach, or can I use Bluetooth or something along those lines? So this is where DJs take along their phone and have Spotify or something, and they're DJing on whatever gear they DJ on, but their gear allows them to quickly link in something on Bluetooth. Now, sometimes your gear doesn't, and so you need to use the little headphones adapter cable to plug into your USB-C socket on your phone, and from there you can plug a cable into the mixer and do it that way. Other times you can use Bluetooth. Some gear is quite clever. It will let you actually cache the Bluetooth track that you want to play on the gear. So some Alpha Theta gear lets you do that. So you press a button and the track kind of plays in the background until it's all played into your unit, and then you don't need to rely on the Bluetooth, which is quite cool. So I would say is practice, make sure it works. So make sure you're comfortable doing it. And then if it's a party for friends and family and so on, and it doesn't matter if it goes wrong, then yeah, relying on wireless stuff is fine. But if you're being paid, especially if it's someone's wedding or something like that, look, be more professional, use a wire would be my advice to you there. Generally, if you're being paid for stuff, then take it more seriously. and consider what would happen if it went wrong. You really don't want stuff to go wrong when you are being paid. It is a definition of unprofessional, right? Okay, so this is another question about Wi-Fi, but this is in the context of music streaming services. So let's just quickly talk about this, because you, me, and everyone we know, when we're not in the DJ world, we are using music streaming services, right? Most of us have Spotify, and if we don't, we probably have Apple Music. We now use that as our main way of getting and listening to music. And yet in the DJ world, it hasn't really happened yet. And again, you can probably guess why. I was just saying to John then, if you have got issues because your internet drops and you're being paid for something, it's not a good look. So DJs are very conservative for a good reason, with a small c, about all this stuff. They want to make sure it works, and having your music locally is a good way of making sure it works. But Don's question is this. I've noticed there is a lot of criticism around using Wi-Fi and using music streaming services, but it's now available in most gear, and it seems like it's now a major new feature of the new Alpha Theta CDJ 3000X, and that is the new ultra professional player, which you're going to be seeing as the one in all those videos and all those massive clubs and festivals where you see the biggest DJs playing. It is the new kind of industry standard player that's just been released this week. So it's got Wi-Fi, it's got music streaming in it. So Don's saying, I think it's a welcome addition, and I think it's indispensable in modern DJing, and as the future of DJing, it will surely become the new standard. Or not. What do you think, Phil? Well, I think two things. One, I think that it's still early adopter, but I do think that Wi-Fi and the internet generally in DJ booths is going to become like the light or the electricity, right? You're going to expect it, and if it's not there, no game, right? I just think that's going to happen, and it's probably already happening in most places. That's the first thing, which means that it's probably a generational thing. And again, with apologies for continually quoting her, I'm apologizing to her, not you guys. When my daughter was DJing to her school at the age of 10, she was using a Mix Track Pro Go with Wi-Fi and just using the Wi-Fi, the school Wi-Fi, and she had no problems, and she wouldn't dream of thinking about downloading music or plugging in an Ethernet cable and stuff. And I just think as that generation grows up, they will expect this stuff, as I say, in the same way that we expect the lights to come on, or the taps to run, or the power to light up on our DJ gear when we plug it into the wall. So Don, I think it's a generational thing, and I think it's a question of when it becomes the complete norm, not if. Remember, this gear can also stream your own music over Dropbox, for instance. So you'll be getting your music as well as music you don't own over the cloud sooner rather than later, I think. And actually, another John, a different John, said the same thing. Do you think we're closer using streaming of our own music than carrying USB sticks? We are closer, but most pro DJs will still carry a USB stick at the moment. However, times change, and the quality streaming that you need via decent Wi-Fi or decent Ethernet is very, very close. Right, we're going to move on with more questions. They're coming in thick and fast from our live audience. Thank you very much, everyone. My job here is simply to answer them as fast as I can. And if you're enjoying the vibe of this and you want to have a question answered on this, then go check out our courses. Our students get to ask these questions live every week. Thank you to everyone in the comments who are reacting to all of this stuff and chatting to each other as well. Always like to see that. So this is from DJ Princess. DJ Princess says, has anyone got any experience with DJing with an iPad rather than with a laptop with your DJ controller? I've got a DDJ Flex 4, which is one of our most recommended controllers for starting out in DJing, by the way, the Pioneer DJ DDJ Flex 4. And on my laptop, I use software, but I was thinking, could I use iOS instead? Could I use my iPad? So the answer is that yes, you can. And a lot of DJ gear, especially beginner stroke entry-level DJ gear, allows you to nowadays. There is some very good DJ software available on iPads and on phones, in fact, as well. In fact, one of our tutors, Laidback Luke, uses DJ software on his iPhone to DJ at the very biggest festivals and clubs. So if Luke is happy to use an iPhone to DJ from, then in theory, you can do it too. And so, yes, is my short answer, DJ Princess. However, I would say two things in defense of sticking with your laptop. Number one, it's easier to collect prepare and collate and organize a music collection on a laptop than it is on an iPad or an iPhone. So you'll probably end up doing that on a laptop anyway. And that brings me to the second point, which is it's harder to get your music onto an iPhone or an iPad than it is to just have it on the laptop that you've been organizing on anyway. You know, if you're downloading, organizing, arranging your music, building playlists, and you're doing all that on a laptop, to open that laptop, plug a lead into it and start DJing is just easier than to say, okay, how do I get all that onto an iPad now? And also, there's no keyboard on an iPad that you can very quickly search on. Yes, you can put up a touch keyboard and so on, but it's not quite as easy. And then you've got to think about how am I going to prop it up and stuff. So we were some of the very first advocates of DJing on iPhones and iPads. I actually wrote a book about it 10 years ago, but it just hasn't caught on. And as DJs become more serious, they tend to gravitate either towards using standalone gear that doesn't need an extra device like an iPhone, an iPad, or a laptop at all, or they tend to stick with a laptop. So have a go, DJ Princess. Some people love it, but most people stick with a laptop. This next question is a mixing question. This would be in the third of our 5 steps of DJing. Remember, our 5 steps are gear, the geeky stuff, music, where you get it from, what you do with it, mixing, performing, and success. This would definitely come in the mixing section, and it's from Stephen. And Stephen says, once you have synchronized, beat mixed, an outgoing song, automatically or manually, whatever, to an incoming song. In other words, you've changed the tempo of the incoming song to match the one that you're currently playing, and you've mixed away from the old song. So now your new song is at the tempo of the old one. If that tempo is different, in other words, if the new song is playing slower or faster than the old one in order to have mixed it nicely, should you bring it back to the original tempo or not? It's a great question, Stephen. And it depends on 2 things, really. 3 things. Number 1, what does it sound like? Does it sound good? Does it sound a bit strange because you moved it too far from its normal tempo? And did you have the key lock or the master tempo on? Key lock or master tempo is a cool control on modern DJ gear that stops the pitch, or to put it another way, how high or low a song is, from changing when you change the speed or the tempo. It's really useful because it means that you can move songs further away from where they were recorded and they still sound pretty good. So if you had that on, then the chances are that even if you are a few BPMs away from where it should be, it will still sound okay. So did you have that on? If not, then maybe it's worth moving it back to where it came from. The golden rule is to do it very, very slowly so no one notices. Tiny bit at a time, bit by bit by bit, over a minute or so. But the second thing is, how familiar is your audience with the song you've just mixed into? Because if you've mixed into a song that people don't know, you can usually get away with playing it a bit faster or a bit slower. But if everyone knows it, they'll notice straight away. So how familiar is the audience? But the third thing is, what tempo is the next song that you want to play, assuming you want to beat mix that in as well? What tempo is that song at? Because if it's at the same tempo as the one you played before, then you're going to do all this work, getting everything to the new tempo, to have to then kind of undo that work when you mix into another song that's back where you were at the first track, right? If you get me. So all these things come into play. But ultimately, as we say in so many things in DJing, trust your ears. Does it sound good? Because if it doesn't sound good, do something about it. And that could cover anything. It could cover the EQ. It could cover whether the song itself is working. And of course, it could cover how fast it's playing and so on. So if it's sounding all right, Stephen, then don't worry too much about it. But one rule of thumb, and it's one that I tend to follow, assuming everything else is the same, is if you've moved too far away from the original tempo, maybe get to kind of halfway back to where it should be playing. So if you've mixed in a song at 120 BPMs, and the old song, the one you mixed out from, was at 126 or something, then halve the difference. Try and do the whole thing around 123, because that just kind of is a good place to not be so far out on either track. So this is from Steve, not Stephen, this is from Steve, who says, hey everyone, I really need some help for a gig I have on Saturday. We're happy to help. This is in the 4th step, performing. I have a lot of tracks in my set which don't have an outro. Actually, it could also be in the mixing section of the way we teach, which don't have an outro, which is the end bit, or that have vocals all the way to the end. Can you help me with some links to videos which show different ways to mix these kinds of tracks? Right, This is modern music, because if you are what modern DJing calls an open format DJ, you're going to be playing a lot of music that hasn't been designed necessarily for big, long, smooth beat mixes. You know, house music, trance music, electronic music, it tends to have 8 bars or 16 bars at the beginning that are just drums, where elements are arriving, and at the end it has the same where elements are leaving, and it might just end on a simple drum beat, right? It's very easy to mix in and out of. Whereas pop, hip hop, commercial dance, Latin music, etc., country, rock, and so on, there's none of that. These are 2.5, 3-minute pop songs designed for the radio, designed to get in, get out. They sometimes literally start on a chorus, end on a chorus. And like you say, there could be vocals all the way to the end. This is modern music. Now, in the old days, and this is back to Craig's discussion at the beginning about how DJing has changed. In the old days, some DJs with 7-inch singles were very good at doing what's called cut mixing, where you'd literally just count the beats in your head, right, the beats and the bars, and literally cut from one 7-inch to the other using deft timing and cool fingers and a lot of practice. But most DJs that were playing what would now be called open format, what was then just called DJing, would kind of fade between songs and speak on a microphone between them and so on. Listen to the way the radio does it if you want an example of that. You know, that still lives on the radio when they play 2 or 3 songs in succession without a DJ. That's the same thing. So you could just do that, which is fine. It's still acceptable in some circumstances. Or you could do the open format method, where it's the modern way of mixing, in the way that back in my heyday, DJs in the best clubs were mixing literally with 7-inch singles between the pop and the indie and the rock and the early dance and the electro and so on, when I was first going out in the mid to late 80s. And the way you do that nowadays is by using all the wonderful tools of modern DJ equipment. Modern DJ equipment can give you beat grids, it can give you echo outs, it can give you loops, it can give you stems, so you can quickly cut to the vocal of one track and drop in the drums of another, and so many other tricks. So there's 2 places I can point you to, and I can point everyone listening to this to who want to learn more about this. One that's free and one that is one of our courses. The free version of this is if you go to the digitaldjtips.com website and click the book in the main navigation, you will find an online version of our book about DJing. And in the online version, we demonstrate with video 5 essential mix techniques that will get you through any DJ gig at any point in any career. Just 5 techniques. Now, I'm not telling you you only need to know 5 techniques if you want to be a great DJ, but these 5 are enough. So go look at the online version of this book, because in the online version, again, it's on the book link on the Digital DJ Tips website. I show you all 5, we get the decks out, and I demonstrate how to do them. So you can copy that, Steve, and from there, you can figure this out. But of course, if you just want to read about them, I also talk about them in the book as well. And to give you a little bit of a reveal, to give you a little bit of a hint, it doesn't all involve beat mixing. Now, the more involved way of learning this is to grab our courses. If you grab our Access All Areas package, you get all of our courses. It's a phenomenal investment in your DJing, because it gets you everything we've ever done and everything we will ever do. Go check it out on the website, because in there are several courses that will give you a lifetime's worth of ideas for how to do this, what is now called open format mixing. So the courses I would point you towards are the course by DJ Angelo, because DJ Angelo really shows you how to do it on modern DJ software and modern DJ gear. Our Mixing Power Skills course, and also our Mixing for Mobile and Wedding DJs course, which are what they say. Mixing Power Skills takes you beyond the basics, and Mixing for Mobile and Wedding DJs shows you how to do this stuff with the kind of tracks that you play to mainstream audiences, which is brilliant. But there's also a product in there within the Access All Areas package, which is called Mix Deconstructions, and there's hundreds of those in there, which is where we take transitions that you see on YouTube, on Instagram, that you find online that look brilliant, and we break them down and show you how to do them. And then you'll realize that actually they're just regurgitating the same tricks over and over again, but they sound great because they've got that X factor. So we show you how to do that. So do go check out that package if you're interested in taking this a lot further, Steve. Thank you so much for your question. So there's another question about one of our courses now, but this is actually about recording DJ mixes. So I'm going to give you some advice now about how professional DJs record DJ mixes. Again, you don't need to be a student of ours to get this advice and start using it instantly. So the question is from Brandon. Brandon says, I'm not ready to commit to your mixtape course. That's absolutely fine, Brandon. But I am curious if you are willing to share with us the techniques and the software you use for creating DJ mixes in that course. And of course I am, Brandon. So this is how professionals make DJ mixes, right? This is the big secret I'm about to share with you. Because if you've ever tried to produce your own DJ mixes, which what we used to call mixtapes, they are really, really difficult to do. And it's why so many DJs, when you say, oh, I hear you're a DJ, can I listen to one of your mixes? They kind of look at their feet and they shuffle a bit and they mumble a bit because they haven't done one for years, because they're really hard to do. Why are they hard to do? Because it's a little bit like the difference between me just chatting to you here now and me having to go and chat in public in front of thousands of people on a stage, right? Here it's a conversation. Here it's just sharing knowledge and real time kind of, hey, this is what we do. But as soon as you're put in front of thousands of people, it all falls apart. Call it stage fright, call it imposter syndrome, whatever. And so if you hit record in your DJ gear, all of a sudden the mixing that you've been doing for fun for months becomes higher stakes. And when it becomes higher stakes, you become more of a perfectionist and you make more mistakes, right? So higher stakes, more mistakes. And that means that it's very, very hard to finish the recording of a DJ set without making a mess up. And, the law says that the mess up will come on the final transition before you finished what you were planning. And so you have to go all the way back to the beginning and start again, right? So this is why people do not record DJ mixes very often. But there's an easy way to fix that. Now, the course explains where this came from, the DJ mixes that use it, but just trust me, it ain't cheating. If it is cheating, the biggest DJs in the world are all cheats. So think about that. The way you do it is by using a method of recording. And by recording, I don't mean hitting record. I mean literally writing down where things go wrong. By using a method which we teach you in the course of writing down where things went wrong and then simply going back and doing that transition again, you end up with a recording which gets from the beginning of your mix to the end with maybe a few mistakes in it. But those mistakes it's literally like the Star Trek Captain's Log. Captain's Log, mix date, 15 minutes and 38 seconds, there's a mess up here. And then if you mess it up 5 more times, they're all listed. And then you move on to the next transition and the next transition. You end up with this big sheet with all the mistakes on it, right? With that mistake sheet and with the piece of software that I'm about to tell you about, you can then go and edit together, taking out all the mistakes, leaving a perfect mixtape. In other words, what you envisaged and what if you were to try recording it 20 times, you'd probably get to in the end, but you'd tear your hair out doing it. In one long take, you'd get the lot. You get it recorded and then you can edit out the mistakes. So what we teach you in that course is all the things around how to do that. It's only one part of the course. We teach you a lot more about how to make a professional mix, but that's what's in there. So the software that people use, well, some people use Ableton Live, which is mainly because that's what most dance music is made on. And therefore they have it anyway, especially if they're DJ producer types, they're making music, they're making remixes and re-edits and so on. If you don't own Ableton Live, but you own some kind of digital audio workstation, if you're an Apple user, you get GarageBand for free as part of your package when you buy an Apple computer, for instance. You can do it in there. But the good news is that there's a piece of software that's been available for a long, long time. It's open source, which means that it's completely, genuinely free, that will do this job for you very well. It's called Audacity. And if you go search for Audacity on a search engine, you'll find a free download for Mac, Windows, Linux, whatever. You just load your imperfect mix with all its mistakes into Audacity and you go and cut those mistakes out. You line the beats up so that no one could ever tell, and you go through a few other steps to make it sound absolutely fantastic, and you end up with a perfect mixtape. So Brandon, that is the secret. That's how it's done. But if you want to know more, again, it's in that course. And that's where we're going to leave it today. Thank you once again to all of our students who took part and who were with me on the recording. If you'd like to be on the next one, then any course owner or program member at Digital DJ Tips gets that chance, not only to be there on the live shows and to get the extended version of this, which is only for our course owners, but to ask questions and to shape the way the show goes, which is great. It's wonderful to know that you've got that help, but also that you can help other DJs with the questions that you're stuck on as well. So do come and take a look at our courses on the Digital DJ Tips website at digitaldjtips.com. Meanwhile, from me, Phil, here in the studio, get good, get out there, make the moments, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.